All right, folks, I appreciate you for tuning in. My name is Randall. This is the McClures. We react, review, we make fun of, we laugh at stuff over here. Link is in the description if you want to help support. You can shop McClures.com. That's the website. We sell quality American products over there if you want to go check it out. If you want to go check it out, we got it up on the screen right there. Um, but yeah, we're going to get into Malaysian Flight 370 today. I watched a little snippet on Instagram, watched a reel, a TikTok, a little video clip, whatever you want to call it. Got me intrigued. Got me intrigued. I never really dove into it much, so I'm kind of curious. I'm kind of curious. So we're going to go down the rabbit hole. I found a few articles to take a look at. And then you guys can steer me in the right direction where we should be taking this deep dive into Flight 370. All right, so yeah, let's get into this first story. This is BBC News. This story is back from December of 21. So written obviously well after the issue. Matter of fact, let's take it to the big head screen. Let's take it to the big head screen so you guys can see what we're talking about here. Matter of fact, we'll make it a little bit better for you guys. All right. So the disappearance of Malaysian airline flight carrying 239 passengers and crew is one of the world's biggest aviation mysteries. Doo-doo-doo. Doo-doo-doo. Super scary. The British aeronautical engineer who has spent more than a year working on the disaster thinks he has calculated where MH370 crashed. Richard Godfrey believes the Boeing 777 crashed in the Indian Ocean 2,000 kilometers west of Perth, Western Australia. The aircraft vanished from radar during a flight in March of 2014. Mr. Godfrey told the BBC he hoped we'll be able to give closure to the next of kin and answers to the flying public and the aviation industry on exactly what happened with Flight 370 and how we prevent that in the future. He combined different data sets that were previously kept in separate domains to align to a new location in the southern Indian Ocean. He said it was a complicated exercise, but previously there was simply a lack of lateral thinking across multiple disciplines to bring this together. So nobody else could figure it out. Only this guy has the answers, folks. He's got all of the answers. That guy. He can't figure out how diet or exercise works, but he did find Flight 370. No one had the idea before to combine Emersat satellite data with the Boeing performance data with the oceanographic, that's a weird word, floating debris drift data with the WSPR net data. So Mr. Godfrey said working with the team has been progressing for a year now. We've done quite a lot of testing, and of this new idea, we've came to the confidence to apply it to MH370. Okay. I don't know if he sounded retarded when he said it or if I sounded more retarded when I read it. We're going to go with the former. All right, the exact point determined by data calculations is around 33 degrees south, 95 degrees east in the Indian Ocean. There have been 2 extensive searches of the Indian Ocean for the flight, which have yielded inconclusive results. Searches have cost hundreds of millions of dollars. Whilst there is a demand from the family members to find their loved ones, the costs associated are enormous. You can't really drag the entire Indian Ocean just because the family members want to bury a body, which you're probably not going to find, even if you find the plane. Obviously. So, tangible evidence. Grace Nathan lost her mother, Anne, in the crash. Really just been an ongoing nightmare. That is never an end. We just seem to be going in circles and hitting a brick wall after another. We've been hoping for the longest time for something new, a new breakthrough, something new that would warrant the search starting again, and at least there being a more precise location for the search being conducted to increase the odds of finding the plane. Miss Nathan, a criminal defense lawyer who lives in Kuala Lumpur, wants the new data to be tested by aviation experts who can understand the science and physics behind the location and to test the theory is credible. We welcome all new findings, especially if it is based on tangible evidence, and in this case, it is based on tangible evidence. It's the things that can be calculated. It's not based on just Google images or loose things that can be backed up, said Mrs. Nathan. Previous searches of the flight have been difficult because of the size of the search area. Yeah, the Indian Ocean seems to be a little bit large. It's a little bit large. It's an area larger than 120,000 square kilometers, has been searched, and that's not looking for a needle in a haystack. That's looking for something microscopic in a haystack. It's very difficult to do. Engineers' new proposal is to circle a radius of 40 nautical miles, far smaller than a previous search. The wreckage could be behind a cliff or in a canyon on the ocean floor, he said. You may need maybe 3 or 4 passes before you start to pick things up. The wreckage could lie as far as 4,000 meters deep. More than 30 pieces of aircraft debris have been washed up on beaches off the African coast and the islands in the Indian Ocean. So they got the body of water correct, at least based on the pieces. Have any of the pieces, obviously haven't determined what happened to the flight, clearly, because then it wouldn't still be the largest mystery ever. But is there any evidence? Is there any evidence on the debris found so far that indicates what happened? You know what I mean? Is there markings of fire? Has it been burned? That kind of thing. Melted with a laser. I've done a lot of work on the information systems and handling lots of data, and that's important on this analysis. There is a huge amount of data to get through and filter out the needle in the haystack. Yeah. Consistent evidence. Realistically, we want to be in the Southern Ocean in the southern summer, which is about now. So quite when the search will be, it may start again in 12 months because you can't get the assets together on site in a short period of time. But I think either the Chinese will take responsibility and look for the victims, or private companies might search sponsored by insurance companies. Insurance companies will pay to figure out what happened so they can not pay the claims? Have they not paid the claims? I guess technically because they're still missing. That's interesting if the insurance companies aren't paying the life insurance claims. That is very interesting, actually. Can you guys see the writing when I blow it up? Not really, huh? Hold on. Hold on. Push play. Oh yeah, you can see it. Just couldn't see it when it was paused. Makes sense. Makes sense. All right, so where were we? There were 122 Chinese nationals on board. Okay. 122 Chinese nationals on board, which departed from Kuala Lumpur, but never reached its destination. The vanishing has led to a huge number of theories as to what has happened. One of the theories is that it was a pilot hijacking, where the pilot took control, deactivated the radar technology before turning around above the Gulf of Thailand and heading west. Mr. Gleave said, if you choose to hide the airplane in the southern Indian Ocean, just make sure it was further to the west of the standard flight path, far away from beyond the range of Australia's search and rescue team's aircraft. So this pinpointed location is consistent with that theory. The Australian Transport Safety Board involvement in the underwater search concluded in October of 2017. Okay, so they think the pilot stole the plane and just crashed it? Like, didn't even crash it into something? Just nose dive into the ocean? I don't know if that sounds feasible. I don't know how I feel about that one. ATSB is not involved in any contemporary efforts to establish the location of the aircraft. Any decision to resume the search for the aircraft would be a matter for the Malaysian government as the state of registry of the aircraft. Malaysian government and Chinese government have been approached for a response. It's in the interest of global aviation safety that this plane is found so we can prevent something like this from happening in the future. It goes beyond our need for our closure. Okay, interesting. So, what we've gained so far regarding passengers is 122 Chinese nationals. That's all it says, right? So that's 122 Chinese citizens. That's what that means to me, right? Okay. Let's keep that in mind. Because we may find something different in the future. All right, so that was BBC. That was the facts about BBC. Now let's check out this live science article. Live science article. Or live science? I don't know. I don't know. Facts about the Malaysian Flight 370, the passengers, the crew, and the aircraft. So we're going to dig into this one as well. Boom. Full fat screen for you guys. We went full-blown fatty. Full fatty for you. Okay. Now we're in full fatty mode. No thanks. So this is posted January 17th of 2017. Okay. So 4 years before the previous article that we just checked out. All right, so Malaysian Airline Flight 370, a passenger flight that left Kuala Lumpur International Airport March 8th, 2014, and disappeared 94 minutes later en route to Beijing Capital International Airport. The disappearance launched an international search effort, some say the largest ever, in an ever-growing area over the South China Sea, Gulf of Thailand, and the Indian Ocean. Nearly 3 years later, the fate of the aircraft still unknown, and the search has been called off. Okay. Okay. So Flight 370 left Kuala Lumpur at 12:41 a.m. local time, carrying 227 passengers and 12 crew members. So the other article only mentioned how many Chinese nationals? It wasn't 227. People from 14 nations were on board. Most of the passengers, 153, were Chinese citizens. Okay, so even the Chinese number doesn't mesh between the articles. All the crew members were Malaysian. 3 Americans were on the flight. Other passengers were from Australia, 6, Canada 2, France 4, Hong Kong 1, India 5, Indonesia 7, Iran 2, the Netherlands 1, 1 Russian, 1 Taiwanese, and 2 Ukrainians. Manifests released by Malaysian Airlines included an Austrian and an Italian. However, the men have since been identified as Iranian nationals who boarded the flight using stolen passports. Okay, so there was 2 Iranians that boarded the flight using stolen passports. And nobody's theory involves them doing shit? Interesting. Investigators at first thought that the men may have been terrorists, but now say they were seeking asylum. The flight's pilot was Captain Zari Ahmad Shah, 53. He was born in northern Malaysia, state of Penang, and was a grandfather. More than 18,000 hours of flight experience. The co-pilot was Farik Abdul Hamid, 27, who had 2,763 flight hours. Associated Press reported that he was engaged and was planning a wedding. All right, so that's all it's going to mention as far as the passengers. Okay. We definitely need to dive into that more. Because I think that's where the crux of all this lies. The issue. All right, we don't care about the aircraft. Do we care about the airline? We might. We might. So Malaysian Airlines began operations in 72 after splitting off from Malaysia Singapore Airlines, which was founded in 47. Airline's home base Kuala Lumpur International Airport with hubs in Kota Kinabalu, Kinabala, Kinabalu, Kinabalu, Kota Kinabalu, and Kuching. The airline operates flights throughout East and Southeast Asia with service to Australia, New Zealand, Middle East, Europe, and until April of 2014, Los Angeles via Tokyo. It has 105 planes in its fleet. So, April of 14, was that right after the accident or right before? When was the accident? When did it say it happened? Uh, February 13th of 13. Okay, so a year later, they stopped flying to America altogether. Okay, interesting. All right, so Malaysian airline aircraft were involved in 3 accidents, including Flight 370, one in 92. Both tires collapsed, as well as the lift main gear, causing a Fokker 50 to veer off a runway at Cebu Airport in Malaysia. Nobody was hurt, though. Another Fokker 50 landed 500 meters from the end of a 2,220 meter runway. Pilot attempted to take off and try again, but crashed into some nearby houses. 34 people on board were killed during that incident in 95. And then in March of 2000, baggage handlers unloaded 80 canisters from an Airbus A330 who were overcome by strong toxic fumes. Fire and rescue personnel discovered the canisters contained oxalochloride, a toxic and corrosive chemical. Several canisters had leaked, causing severe damage to the aircraft's fuselage. Aircraft was considered damaged beyond repair. Chinese company was fined 65 million for mislabeling the canisters and destroying the aircraft. Okay. And then the last issue was obviously March 8th of 2014, Flight 370. So the timeline at 12:41 is takeoff, 1:19 is the last communication. Last thing he said was, all right, good night. Okay, interesting. Interesting. Are any of you chatting? Because the chat seemed to stop when we started or restarted the stream. And I'm wondering if we screwed something up there. Oh well. Not on Rumble. I can refresh the Rumble and see your guys' chat, but for the YouTube and all that stuff, I don't know if I can. All right, so last communication was at 1:19, and at 1:21 a.m., the Boeing 777 radar transponder is turned off. So at 1:19, he calls in, all right, good night. Everything is good to go. And then 2 minutes later, the transponder is turned off. Okay, interesting. Then at 2:15, Malaysian military detected an unidentified object on its radar traveling west. This information becomes publicly roughly a week later. The radar target is thought to be Flight 370. The plane then disappears from military radar about 200 miles off the coast of Malaysian state of Penang. Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 is scheduled to arrive in Beijing at 6:30. Obviously, it doesn't. A satellite detects the last signal from the plane's antenna at 8:11. All right, so the transponder's turned off. Are they able, but they're not able to track it from the last signal from the plane's antenna? So that kind of signal, you can't see where it's coming from. You just know that you received it. I guess that's how that one works. Makes sense. So the next day, within 24 hours, search operations began over the Gulf of Thailand. An oil slick on the water is seen near where the plane was last detected, but lab tests eventually showed that that oil came from a ship and not a plane. Search efforts are expanded into the South China Sea after possible debris is spotted near Hong Kong. Ultimately, Vietnamese searchers are unable to locate objects in the water. It's also revealed that two passengers used stolen passports to board the flight, which raised concerns about terrorism. And then on the 11th of March, an investigation into the stolen documents eventually finds no link between the men and known terrorist groups, and officials concluded the passengers were likely immigrants seeking asylum as part of a broader attempt to reach Europe. Malaysian officials tell a local newspaper that military radar evidence suggests the plane turned around mid-flight. Then on the 12th, an investigation is opened into the possibility that Flight 370 was hijacked or sabotaged. Chinese released satellite images of potential debris floating between the South China Sea and the Gulf of Thailand. Search areas expanded, but the Malaysian government later says the Chinese satellite images do not show parts of the missing plane. Okay. Little redirect. Search efforts move toward the Indian Ocean as officials try to piece together the plane's flight path after air traffic controllers lost radio contact. And obviously, the Indian Ocean, I think, is where it is. Now we're years and years later, and more debris is washed up. That's the shores of the Indian Ocean is where it's washing up. So now on March 14th, individuals familiar with the investigation tell New York Times that the plane lost significant altitude after it lost contact with the ground, with ground controllers. Individuals familiar with the investigation, how did they know the plane lost significant altitude after it lost contact with the ground controllers? How could they possibly know that? Isn't the little black box on board that has to, isn't that the only thing that would store that kind of elevation data? Like that data is not, unless you're tracking that plane, right? But once the transponder goes off, you can no longer track the plane's altitude. Correct? Or no? Intelligence officials probed the possibility that one of the pilots or crew members played a role in the plane's disappearance. Okay, so we find out two people on board use fake names and passports to get on board. The going theory is just the pilot himself suicided. Okay. And then on the 15th, the Malaysian government reports the homes of the pilots were searched following a suspicion that someone aboard may have tampered with the plane's communication system. Investigations continue to examine the possible role the pilots played in the plane's disappearance. Later, Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak said there is a possibility that the plane's communications were deliberately disabled before it disappeared and the flight was intentionally diverted, though there is no evidence that the flight was hijacked. The last satellite transmission from the Flight 370 is traced to the Indian Ocean off the coast of Australia. So they can track the satellite transmissions, but they can't track it the whole time to see the flight pattern or path. And then on the 16th, international search operations mount, focusing primarily on the Indian Ocean. New analysis suggests the plane continued to operate for roughly 7 hours after it last made contact with ground controllers. Okay, so they think the plane went offline and was flying around in circles for 7 hours over the Indian Ocean. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. All right, March 17th, Indonesia and Australia used patrol aircraft to search large sections of the southern Indian Ocean. Malaysian law enforcement officials expand their investigation to include all the passengers, crew, and ground staff present on March the 8th. And the Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak ask Australia to lead the ongoing search operation. Reports indicate that, oh, excuse me, not that, reports indicate Thai military radar may have detected Flight 370, but the information was not shared with or requested by Malaysian officials until now. Search efforts continue over the Indian Ocean. Okay, so apparently the Thai had it on radar and just didn't tell nobody? Okay, seems weird. U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigations joins the Malaysian government ongoing investigation by analyzing data taken from the pilot's home flight simulator. Malaysian Defense Minister confirms that files were deleted from the program on February the 3rd. An analysis of the plane's fuel reserve narrows the search area to a smaller region within the southern Indian Ocean. Interesting. Okay, so pilot's got a flight simulator at home with deleted data from a few days prior. What was he working on? What was he working on? Interesting. Search planes again failed to locate any debris over the missing Malaysian airline jetliners. This is on the 21st of March. An analysis by British satellite company Inmarsat find that the plane's steady speed and flight path suggest it is unlikely that the plane was disabled by a catastrophic event. Okay. So based off of the British satellite company Inmarsat studying the plane's speed and flight path, they suggest it's unlikely the plane was disabled by catastrophic accident. Okay, so it didn't blow up mid-flight according to these folks. On the 22nd, an Australian patrol plane spots a wooden pallet in the water within the search zone. Chinese satellite orbiting Earth captured a new photo of objects potentially linked to the missing Malaysian airline flight. The images show a large object measuring about 72 feet by 43 feet, in the southern Indian Ocean. The Australian Maritime Safety Authority tries to locate the object seen by the Chinese Earth observation satellite, but is unable to find any debris within the reported search area. Then on the 22nd, a French satellite showing potential floating objects was sent to the Australian Maritime Safety Authority. Images produced from satellite-generated radar echoes or radar signals that provide information from an object's location shown an object or objects floating about 1,430 miles off the coast of Perth. Such efforts again failed to produce any debris in the water. All right, on the 24th, another two objects detected southwest of Australia. Gray or green circular objects or orange rectangular objects. And the Prime Minister comes out and says, based off the information they have, it looks like the jetliner crashed in the southern Indian Ocean. So based off all data that they have, the last known fixed position is in the middle of the Indian Ocean. Now on the 25th, there's bad weather, including gale force winds and heavy rain that stale search efforts for possible debris from the missing plane. So then on March 26th, the field of debris in the ocean consisting of 122 floating objects is seen on a satellite image. And according to Malaysian Acting Transport Minister, Hishamuddin Hussein. That's quite the fucking name there, my guy. All right, the image is taken on Sunday, March the 23rd, cover an area of 1,600 miles off the coast of Perth. Everything is off the coast of Perth. Thai satellite spots more than 300 floating objects. 27th. 28th. Multiple objects detected. March 30th, Australian search plane spots a few objects. March 31st. On April the 4th, a Chinese ship detects sound described as pulse signals in the Indian Ocean. Investigators say the signals are the same frequency as the plane's black box. Then on the 7th, the Australian ship called the Ocean Shield picked up signals consistent with those emitted from an airplane's black box in the northern part of the designated search area. The first signal lasted 2 hours and 20 minutes, and after the ship turns around, a second signal is detected and held for 13 minutes. I don't understand. If the black box is down there and it's emitting the signal like it's supposed to, why wouldn't you be able to get it permanently? Why would it come off and on? That's weird. That is weird. All right, so on the 13th, ship detected an oil slick on the water. It's unclear where the oil came from. A sample of the water is collected for examination. Unmanned submarine, the Bluefin 21, is deployed to scan the ocean floor and search for debris and wreckage of the missing jetliner. Bluefin searched 35 square miles. Does not locate any debris. Okay, and then on the 29th, the Malaysian officials and their international partners investigating a claim by Australian company Geo Renaissance had found a possible sign of aircraft wreckage in the shape of a missing aircraft in the Bay of Bengal, 3,000 miles from the current search area. Aerial search concluded no signs of debris, and the underwater search enters a new phase with side scan sonar. Alright, let's see. Alright, that's pretty much it. The rest of it is a couple cases where they find some more debris. And then on July 22nd of 2016, the search is suspended. So, they spent a good few years looking for it, which is interesting. Let me grab a drink real quick, folks. Hold on one second. If you're new to the stream, you don't know what it is. If you've ever watched it before, you probably know the drink will be Dr. Pepper. It's literally the only liquid I consume. And out of the 2-liter is obviously the best way to do it. Obviously. All right, so that's interesting stuff. So that gives us a little bit of background. Now, let's divulge a little bit. And let's get into some facty facts and some theories. Let's get into some facts and some theories on the situation. All right. So obviously, Malaysian airline flight 370 disappearance, aviation disaster, from 2014. All right, so they have it listed as 227 passengers and 12 crew members. Okay. We already covered the disappearance and the search. The debris discovery, we went over that. All right, now according to this, the possible causes of the aircraft's disappearance are as follows. Let me make this nice and fat for you guys so you can see it. There we go. Make sure you get all those ads in there too. They like those ads. I should sell some ads on my website. Maybe. All right, possible causes of the aircraft's disappearance. In the weeks following Flight 370 disappearance, theories range from mechanical failure to pilot suicide. The loss of the ACARS, a transponder signal, spurred ongoing speculation about some form of hijacking. No individual or group claimed responsibility, and it seems unlikely that hijackers would have flown the plane into the southern Indian Ocean. The signals had likely been switched off from inside the aircraft, suggested suicide by one of the crew, a possibility that Malaysian authorities have yet to rule out, but nothing suspicious was found in the behavior of the captain, the first officer, or the cabin crew prior to the flight. And after the discovery of the debris, some speculated that Flight 370 was shot down, but no evidence of shrapnel from a missile or other projectiles have been found. What would you need evidence shrapnel from a missile, or could you just find, a chunk of the side of the plane with a hole through it? You know what I mean? So it could have been a disaster, any natural and human generated calamitous event. Calamitous. That's a good word. Is that all it has? Wait a second. That can't be all it has. Oh, that's interesting. That other article we just listed, it didn't. This says Malaysian Airlines Flight 17 aviation disaster in Ukraine, also in 2014. But when we read that other article, it only listed 3 other incidences for Malaysian Airlines. Unless that article came out before this plane went down? I don't think it did, though. No, because the article was 2017, no? So why didn't it talk about this one? So Flight 17 crashed and burned in eastern Ukraine, July 17th, 2014, and 300 people on board, most of whom were citizens of the Netherlands, died in the crash. Dutch inquiry determined that aircraft was shot down by a Russian-made surface-to-air missile. Oh, I do remember that one. Why did they shoot that one down, supposedly? Notable scientist Joab Lang. Who is Joab Lang? Dutch clinical researcher specializing in HIV therapy, served as the president of the International AIDS Society from 02 to 04. Okay. So is this a pro-Fauci AIDS researcher guy or anti-Fauci AIDS researcher guy? I've come to find out there's basically 2 camps on that whole subject. Interesting. So apparently separatists in Russia shot it down. Interesting. Interesting. I really thought that was going to have significantly more information about the quote-unquote theories. I really did. Here's one of the latest articles that I was able to find on the topic. After we go through this article, we are going to type in theories and go down the rabbit holes. So if you got one specific theory we should dive into, you let me know. All right, the CEO of Malaysian Airlines, Captain Izam Ismail, went from selling snacks as a child to running a fleet of airplanes. Not too many CEOs admitted to filling up their stomachs with water at school to starve off hunger pains, but then again, the Captain Izam Ismail is not a typical boss. He knows how it feels to be poor. Took an entrance exam for a flying school. Had to borrow some clothes to do it at age 30. To be trained by the Philippine Airline Aviation School, Ishmael was one of only 7 to be accepted in the intake. He opted to take up the offer rather than go to the UK, mainly because it allowed him to remain much closer to his family, and took just 2 years, far quicker than a degree course. He started flying for Malaysian Airlines in '79, became captain, and a decade later was selected for its senior management training scheme. That meant taking him out of the cockpit, except for one trip a month, while moving around 18 different positions in the group and taking management courses like Harvard. In 2010, he stopped flying altogether, but not before setting world records for the longest flight, fastest round the world flight by a commercial airliner with a total flight time of 41 hours, 59 minutes, over a distance of 23,310 miles in a Malaysian first Boeing 777-200. All right, so while running an airline is perhaps one of the harder management challenges, you never had a good sleep as a CEO, he said. He got the job following a particularly challenging set of circumstances. All right, so he's a kick-ass pilot. They're putting him through management school, yada, 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 right? Then in March 2014, Malaysian Airliner 370 with 239 people on board disappeared on the flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. Netflix documentary reminded the world of that enduring mystery. Then just 4 months later, MH17 was shot down over Ukraine by Russian-controlled forces, killing all 300 people on board. So in December of 2014, Malaysian state-owned sovereign wealth fund, Khazanah, took the already loss-making airline private in a $1.5 billion restructuring and brought in Christopher Mueller as CEO 6 months later. He'd helped revive airlines Aer Lingus and Belgium's Sabena and Germany's Lufthansa. While its legal entity was altered and there were some internal discussions about rebranding the airline, Ishmael said the management and board decided not to change it. The kite symbol on the tail fin had represented Malaysia to the world for a century, and he says each plane is likely an embassy on wings. And how much does it cost to repaint the tail of all the airplanes? Company is still controlled by the Malaysian government and acts as an extension of the country's tourism board to some extent, offering passengers from London a bonus side trip to Malaysia before continuing on to their final destination, for example. After a misguided attempt to jump on the budget bandwagon in 2019, it implemented a long-term business plan and refocused as a premium full-service carrier. While the pandemic delayed its revival, the group nevertheless reported $125 million operating profit last year, a considerable improvement on the $173 million loss in 2021 after carrying just under 10 million passengers, or about 85% of pre-pandemic capacity. Malaysian Airlines has 11,000 staff, down from 35,000 2 decades ago, and flies to almost 50 destinations, mostly in Asia, with 106 aircraft that are all leased. So they're the smallest out of all, and they don't own any of the planes, apparently. After losing its way and some staff over the past 2 decades, its new Middle Eastern rivals such as Qatar Airways and the Emirates, Ismail says our journey is to catch up. He insists that it's impossible even if it means sometimes failing on the way. That it is possible even if it means sometimes failing along the way. The more you fail, the faster you learn. I guess. I guess. All right. So this guy's put into the place after the accident, right? That's basically what we get from that. All right, here's a Newsweek article, and this was just back from March of this year. What happened to Malaysian Airlines Flight 370? 5 theories explained. So on March 8th, Flight 370 disappeared on radar. We know. 227 passengers, 12 crew members. We get you. We get you. All right. Since its disappearance, authorities from Malaysia, China, and Australia have carried out extensive search for the aircraft without success. All right, theory 1, the plane crashed. Okay, good theory. Good theory. We definitely needed to read an article for that theory. Why is that one of the theories, people? Come on. Get with the program. All right, 2, the plane was shot down because of its cargo. One theory suggested in the documentary suggests that a plane could have been shot down over the South China Sea, allegedly because of the cargo that the plane was carrying. The family of those who were on board the plane called for the Malaysian government to look into whether there was shrapnel evident in the debris that had been identified as being from what? And one theory suggested in the documentary suggest that the plane could have been shot down over the South China Sea, allegedly because of the cargo that the plane was carrying. The families of those who were on board the plane called for the Malaysian government to look into whether there was shrapnel evident in the debris that had been identified as being shrapnel evident. Isn't shrapnel what they find? Isn't the debris shrapnel? I don't understand. Are they talking about like military shrapnel? Because obviously if you shoot a plane down with a missile, you're going to find a lot of the missile. It's huge chunks of missile all over the place. The fuck, people? Come on. Option 3, the pilot was responsible. This is the option I want to dig into more. Which obviously on here, they put one sentence. That's interesting. The option about the plane crashing has a bunch with links. That's not a theory. Theory 4, the plane was hijacked. And that theory is suggested because the Malaysian airline flight was shot down by a Russian missile 4 months later. So that makes the plane that disappeared 4 months before that also shot down by Russians? One theory is that Russians hijacked the plane in order to distract the world from their operation in Crimea. Okay, so that's some 4D chess going on there. Okay. I don't think that's we don't think that's correct at all. Um 5. US military was responsible. Interesting theory. So Mark Dugan, former director of Proteus Airlines, suggests the plane was shot down by the US military, which was then covered up. So he thinks they shot it down by accident? He claims it was shot down to avoid the plane crashing into an American military base on the island of Diego Garcia. Really? Okay. Then what we need is, do we have a military base on Diego Garcia? What the fuck is that? Is that the Guam base? Is that what they're calling it? So the Naval Support Facility Diego Garcia is a British Ministry of Defense facility leased to the United States. It's located in the Indian Ocean. Oh, interesting theory. Okay, so theory is it was hijacked. The intended target is this military base. Our military had to shoot down the plane and then covered it up because there was Americans on board, there was actual citizens on board. And what, no way to prove it was terrorist? I mean, if you have to kill a plane taken over by terrorists so it doesn't create another 9/11, you know what I mean, in case it's planning on crashing into a building that's already lined with explosives. In case that's You never know. You never know. It may be heading to a building already lined with explosives. So they got to take it out. Secret of Diego Garcia Air Base. Yeah, it's so secret. There's 1,000 pictures of it online. Look how secret it is, folks. It's super secretive. It's super duper duper secretive. Like, we have a Google Earth now. There's no secrets, dude. I guess you gotta know what you're looking for, though, huh? That's a cool picture. What a beautiful place. And they're using this for the military. Is that a golf course? That's a golf course, isn't it? You guys see it, right? That's a golf course. This right here has got to be a golf course, dude. Interesting. Interesting. So yeah, this is a really cool place. Kind of sucks that we're using it for the military. Oh, can you see the golf course better over here? It does look like a golf course, no? And is this an island that they took over? Because, I don't know, it kind of looks man-made. See how, like, perfect the beach is? I don't know. Interesting. Okay. So Dugan, good old Mark Dugan. All right. So who was on flight 370? Who was on flight 370? Oh, I always, there we go. I always accidentally click on the actual stream instead of on the web page, and then it moves the stream. Screws me all up. You know what I mean, folks? Screws me all up. All right, let's see. Let's see who was on the flight. This is what we need to know. The passengers. NPR. Oh, God. Let's see if they got any more details, though. The flight manifest gave Woods age as 51, though his family and Bosch said he was 50. The other two Americans on the flight were children. Nicole Ming was 4 and Yan Zheng 2. It's unclear whom they were traveling with. All right, Philip Wood was one of 3 Americans on the flight. He worked for IBM in the Chinese capital where he lived for 2 years. He was returning to Beijing after visiting family in Texas. Wood and his girlfriend Sarah Bajk were planning to move to Malaysia. Okay, so an IBM worker was one of the Americans. So the 3 Americans were these 2 kids. They don't know who they were traveling with, which is weird, right? Obviously, American kids with Chinese national names not traveling with any Americans. You know what I mean? Doesn't that sound like 2 sex trafficking victims that were killed on the flight with fake American paperwork? That's what that sounds like. Also among the passengers, a group of 2 dozen Chinese painters and calligraphers returning home after an exhibition in Malaysia dedicated to the Chinese dream. They included well-known calligrapher Zhang Wenquan, who is 72, and a 35-year-old artist and ethnic Uyghur. Uyghur. Uyghur? Is that how you say it? Uyghur, huh? I think that's how you say it. Yeah, he's a painter, yada yada. He captured the colors, blah 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 blah. There was also 2 Iranians traveling on stolen European passports, seeking a better life in Europe, and also the UK. All right, my kid's out there going psycho. And also the UK trained Chinese engineer who had taken up a prestigious position in Beijing. Okay. Let's check out the BBC profiles real quick. All right, suspicion of terror linked to the disappearance of the aircraft were rejected by the Malaysian authorities once the true identities of the men carrying the stolen passports of Italian Luigi Maraldi and Austrian Christian Kozel became known. They were both young Iranian men seeking a new life in Europe far from home. Oh, okay, so it was some gays fleeing Iran? Is that what we're doing here? Okay. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Okay. Um, they were young like me, he said. Poor was quiet, nice. He was never naughty. That's a weird thing to say. So was his friend. I heard them talking. They wanted to go to Europe to seek asylum. He said that Poria's mother had been calling from Hamburg ever since Flight 370 vanished, asking how her son was during his brief stay in Malaysia. All right, this guy's pretty interesting. Dr. Yu Chin Lee was on the flight. Wifey was not. Recently finished his doctoral engineering degree from Cambridge University. University confirmed that he had recently begun working in a prominent geotechnical position in Beijing. Yu Chin was a hugely talented and likable person with a brilliant career ahead of him. Dr. Lee had also been recently married, but his wife was not on the flight with him. A Facebook page from a Churchill College congratulated the couple on their recent marriage, adding that we think they look fabulous. He previously had studied civil engineering in the University of Beijing. Okay. Here's one of the Americans. IBM executive Philip Wood, originally from Texas, was one of 3 Americans on the plane. Avid traveler, just been transferred to Malaysia, was excited about his new beginning. His younger brother James told Wall Street Journal. Last planned trip to Beijing before settling in Kuala Lumpur. He has 2 sons from a previous marriage who are based in Texas. We are still sticking together, his father, Aubrey Wood, told New York Times. What can you do? What can you say? Another passenger on the way to a new job was the mechanical engineer Paul Weeks from New Zealand. The former soldier moved to his family to Perth, Australia after the devastating earthquakes in Christchurch. Before he left home, he took off his wedding ring and watch and gave them to his wife for his 2 young sons. That's weird. If something should happen to me, then the wedding ring should go to the first son and that gets married, and the watch to the second. His wife, Danica Weeks, was quoted by media as saying. That is a weird thing. But people do get weird when they travel and they go on flights, especially people that are like scared to fly. They be doing some weird shit. That is facts. People be doing some weird shit before they fly. Although it's sus as fuck when your plane disappears. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, it's a little sketchy when your plane just fucking disappears. All right, a veteran martial arts expert and stunt double for actor Jet Li was also on board. Okay, interesting. The youngest, 23 months old, Wang Mohing, was one of the youngest passengers on board. He was returning from a week's holiday in Malaysia with his mother and father. Two of his grandparents parents were also on board the plane. His family reported by saying they were trying to get away from the bad air in Beijing. That didn't work out. All right, lost generations. 6 members of one Chinese family are missing. Ah, here's the U.S. citizens, including a 4-year-old girl and 2-year-old boy who were both U.S. citizens. French national Lawrence Watt-Relos, 52, was returning from a beach holiday in Malaysia with 2 of her 3 children. Hedreen, 17, Amber, 14, and Hedreen's girlfriend, Zhao Yang, 18, was also on board. Oh, okay. I was confused for a second there. Reports say the French teenager had been attending the French school in Beijing and that Lawrence was active in the school's parent-teacher association. According to Wall Street Journal, Lawrence's husband, Ghislaine Watralos, flew into Beijing from Paris the same day the flight went missing and was expecting to be reunited with his family. He was instead met by 2 French diplomats who broke the news of the missing flight. But it said, I don't understand. So 6 members of one Chinese family are missing, the paper says, including a 4-year-old girl and 2-year-old boy who were both U.S. citizens. And then is this switching to somebody else? Because how are they 6 members of a Chinese family if they're French nationals with kids of different ages? So this is all it mentions about the American kids? Again, why is there no information on the sex traffic victims that died on the flight apparently with American credentials? All right, also on the plane, 20 staff members from a U.S. technology company, Freescale Semiconductors, which makes powerful microchips for industries including defense. 12 employees were from Malaysia and 8 were from China. The company said it was deeply saddened by the news in a statement on its website. Okay, so there's an American U.S. technology company who all their employees are live in Malaysia and China, and they work on microchips for our defense. Um, are we outsourcing? I mean, obviously we're outsourcing everything to China, but we're even outsourcing our own defense to our enemies? How does that work? Can you make us a chip that'll make us more effective in beating you? Like what? Let's read the statement by the company. I'm curious. Let's read the statement by the company. Freescale Semiconductors. Let me see. Where's my phone? I think I took a note of it because I thought that when, like I said, me wanting to get into this subject all started from me seeing like an Instagram post or something. But nothing that had mentioned in the Instagram post I have come across yet. And we've read like 4 or 5 articles now regarding this. So it's pretty interesting. It is pretty interesting that I haven't heard anything about it. But let me see. I think I made a note. I didn't. Damn it. What was the name? What was the name of the group? What was the name of the group? What was the name of the group I was thinking about? Shout out to everybody tuning in on Rumble. We appreciate you guys. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. That helps out. Follow if you want to be notified of future streams, or follow just to help me out. You can do that also. And if you really want to help out, you can click the little join button. $5 a month. Get you in the club, backdoor access. Um, but that's the goal, is to get enough people on the membership so we can provide enough cheeseburgers to feed all the mouths. And I don't have to go back to sales. Because we left the business and we're not going back, folks. We're relying on you to make this dream a goal, dream achievable. NXP acquired Freescale Semiconductors. When did they acquire it? When did they acquire it? NXP acquires Freescale Semiconductor. Isn't that interesting? Merger complete December 2015. So Inhoven. Okay. So that's interesting. That is definitely interesting. Which is probably why the statement from Freescale about all their employees dying on one flight is not out anymore, because the company doesn't exist anymore. Interesting stuff. So NXP, it's a Dutch chip maker, and they agreed to buy Freescale for 12 billion in cash. Oh, I forgot I have a hotkey still set up, so I automatically switched to the other screen. That works. It works, whatever. Lots of employees on the Malaysian flight. Below, U.S. chipmaker says. All right, the patent conspiracy. I think this is the one. I think I was digging into the right company. All right, so Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 disappeared. We know. Uh, All right, so several days later, a conspiracy theory was floated on the internet that four of the passengers on the flight were all co-holders of a recently issued highly valuable patent, and the disappearance of Flight 370 was engineered to eliminate them so that the remaining co-holder of the patent could reap all the royalties from it himself. Interesting theory. Interesting theory. Here's what you'll need to know. Spread the information everywhere. 4 days after the missing flight, a patent is approved by the Patent Office. 4 of the 5 patent holders are Chinese employees of Freescale Semiconductor of Austin, Texas. Patent is divided up 20% increments to 5 holders. Pidong Wang Songzai China 20%. Zijun Qin, Shaozhao China, 20%. Jihong Sheng, Zhushou, Liying. These fucking names, bro. Sounds funny when I say them. Alright, if a patent holder dies, then the remaining holders equally share the dividends of the deceased, if not disputed in the will. If 4 of the 5 dies, then the remaining 1 patent holder gets 100% of the wealth of the patent. That remaining live patent holder is Freescale Semiconductor. Who owns Freescale Semiconductor? Apparently Jacob Rothschild through BlackRock, with an interesting name for a company. Who owns Freescale? Jacob Rothschild through Blackstone is who owns Freescale. All right. Here's your motive for the missing plane. All the 4 Chinese members of the patent were passengers on the missing plane. The patent was the breakthrough. We have entered the future proper, and the foreman was murdered so that the last still living members can keep this for himself to either hide or profit from. The improbabilities of such a theory are numerous. For starters, it's not clear the 4 men referenced as patent co-holders actually were on Flight 370, as their names, as rendered above, don't appear on the flight manifest. Okay, so those 4 specific names mentioned in this tweet don't appear on the manifest. Okay. Were there 4 people that held a patent from that company? There was 20 employees from the company on the flight. It's possible that the seeming absence of such matching names from the manifest could be due to slight differences in the translations of those persons' names from Chinese to English, however. Moreover, the patent in question is dated March 11, 2014 and involves a system for optimizing a number of dyes produced on a wafer. That doesn't sound like a highly valuable breakthrough. Type of patent that would prompt the murder of 4 people, much less the death of 235 or other parties, in order to gain exclusive control of it. It looks to be a patent for a procedure that moderately improves the efficiency of a particular manufacturing process, not something with a huge market base and a vast potential for profit. Additionally, the men listed are not actually the patent holders, they're the inventors, applicants, with the patent itself having been assigned to Freescale Semiconductor Inc. of Austin, Texas. Presumably, Freescale Semiconductor is their employer, and it's typical that engineers working in the employ of companies are required by the terms of their employment to assign ownership of their discoveries and inventions to their employers, and thus usually do not receive royalties from any resulting patents. It's also not given that if all but one of the co-holders of a patent dies, then the remaining 1 patent holder gets 100% of the wealth of the patent. As if a patent were some form of tontine to be awarded to the last man standing. Unless prior arrangements have been made in this regard, the share of the patent held by the deceased may pass to their heirs or estate through the usual inheritance process. Now that'd be interesting to dive into if that's actually the case. I don't know how patent law works. I'm going to say it's not as simple as if you own a patent and you die, it's included in your estate. I don't think that that's the case. That doesn't seem like it would be. That definitely doesn't seem like it would be the case. Um, yeah. Now, although the Rothschilds' name may be a talisman for many conspiracy theories, it isn't true that Jacob Rothschild owns Freescale Semiconductor. Freescale is a public company whose stock is held in part by 152 different institutional shareholders. The Blackstone Group, of which Jacob Rothschild serves as a member of the company's International Advisory Board, is one of the largest of those institutional holders with over 196 million shares, but the Carlyle Group and the TPG Group holdings both own a number of Freescale shares equal to that held by Blackstone. And they're acting like the Carlyle Group. The Carlyle Group is actually the name that was used in the Instagram video that I watched. The video specifically said that 4 members of the Carlyle Group held the patent, but it didn't say what the patent was for. This dove into it a little bit, but not really. But what was their reason for labeling it false? Well, they said the names don't match, but they have a suggestion for that. They say it wasn't owned by this Rothschild dude, but it is. And they say there was a patent, but it just wasn't that cool. And how do they know that that is the patent in question? Okay. Let's look up this guy. Who is this guy? Oh, give me the fucking break, dude. Let's do a quick security check. It's LinkedIn, people. Here's a more interesting story for sure. U.S. technology company, which held 20 senior staff on board Malaysian Airlines Flight 370, just launched a new electronic warfare gadget for military radar systems in the days before the Boeing 777 went missing. Freescale Semiconductor, which makes powerful microchips for industries including defense, released the powerful new products to the American market on March the 3rd. 5 days later, flight took off from Kuala Lumpur for Beijing with 239 people on board, including 20 working for Freescale. 12 from the Malaysia 12 were from Malaysia, while 8 were Chinese nationals. Freescale spokesman Mitch Hawes said, these were all people with a lot of experience and technical background, and they were very important people. Okay, how important were they, buddy? Why don't we get into it? Why don't we get into it? It's definitely a loss for the company. Freescale shareholders include the Carlyle Group of private equity investors, okay, whose past advisors have included ex-U.S. Presidents George Bush Sr. and former Prime Minister John Mayer. Carlyle previous heavyweight clients include the Saudi bin Laden Group, the construction firm owned by the family of Osama bin Laden. The fact that Freescale has so many highly qualified staff on board the Boeing 777 had already prompted wild conspiracy theories about what might have happened. The company says they were flying to China to improve its consumer products operations, but Freescale's fresh links to electronic warfare technology is likely to trigger more speculation and deepen the mystery. Experts have been baffled on how large passenger jets seem to have flown undetected and possibly beaten military radar systems for up to 6 hours. Avoiding radar via cloaking technology has long been one of the objectives of the defense industry, and Freescale has been an active developing chips for military radar. On its website, the company said its radio frequency products meet the requirements for applications in avionics, radar communications, missile guidance, electronic warfare, and identification, friend or foe. Now, on March 3rd, it announced it was releasing 11 of these new gadgets for use in high frequency VHF and low band UHF radio and radio communication, radar and radio communications. The company did not respond to questions from the Express Online, including whether any of its missing employees had been working on the defense products. It neither provided any response to the latest bizarre conspiracy theory being widely published on the comments section of newspaper websites and other internet forums. The comment reads, it reads, have you pieced together the puzzle of missing Flight 370 to Beijing, China? If not, there are missing pieces. Patents, patents, patents. 4 days after the missing flight, a patent is approved by the Patent Office. 4 of the 5 patent holders are Chinese employees of Freescale Semiconductor of Austin, Texas. Patent is divided up 20% per increment to 5 holders. We've seen that post. Patent holders can alter the proceeds legally by passing well to their heirs. However, they cannot do this until the patent is approved. So when the plane went missing, the patent had not been approved. Although a Freescale patent does exist under the name blah blah blah, none of the names listed actually appear on the passenger manifest released by the Malaysian authorities. The search continues for Flight 370, but speculation surrounding its fate grows by the day. Some experts believe the plane was hijacked, possibly by the pilot, or that there was a struggle on board which led to a catastrophic decompression. No seat cushions or luggage have been expected to float, have yet been found in the vast Indian Ocean where it might have crashed. Which is, I think, why people speculate that it blew up, right? Because then the stuff that would normally float wouldn't float because it burns. But that is the theory in the crux of it, basically, is that this Freescale Semiconductor company took out the plane themselves, or their competition took out the plane. But I'd be curious. All right, let's see. Freescale Semiconductor patents. Why I can't get my computer to make DuckDuckGo my home screen, I don't know. I mean, it is my home screen, but it's not when you open a new web page, I guess. I don't know. Oh, excuse me. I don't know what I'm talking about. But shout out to everybody tapping in on Rumble. We really appreciate you. I don't get we've only hit 20 streamers a couple times, so we appreciate you stopping in. We really do. If you'd like to hit the thumbs up button or the subscribe, follow, or join, we'd appreciate that as well. We do go live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at least. We're going to try to start streaming on more days, but Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at least. And we do all kinds of stuff. So we do news, conspiracy theories, music. I've recently done a couple interviews with some independent artists, and I really like those. So I'm hoping to make that a segment. But we do encourage involvement in the chat. So if you guys want to let me know where you're chatting from, what you're thinking about, if you want to tell me how fat your mom is, whatever you want to do, I'm here for it. All right, patents assigned to Freescale Semiconductor. September 2016, August 2016, February of 18, we got December of 17, October of 17, August of 17, July of 17, June of 17, June of 17, June of 17, May of 17, May of 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17. These are all May of 17. Okay. Shit popping off in 2017. Okay, April 4th, 2017. When was the flight again? I don't remember the date. Does anybody remember the date of the flight? I think it was February. February of 14? I want to say February 14. Here's November 14. This patent was filed. Uh, 17, 17, 16. All right, so that one's November 14, August of 14. October 14. October 14. All right, so if they had been in business for so long, why didn't they have patents on anything prior to 2014? All right, room for president. Hit up the chat. We do appreciate it. Looks like you're dropping some spam for everybody, though. So that's kind of gay. But you do you, bro. You do you. All right, so here's one from December of 2013. That's the only one that I could find. Oh, here's May of 13. And those weren't... How is the file date and the date of patent so different? So, like, date of patent would be approved, right? Why would it take 4 years to get approved for both of those? Just reading this technical jargon here real quick. Oh, what the patent is for. Okay, that's weird. I wonder... What was the patent number that they said in this report? Pretty sure the patent number was in here. Let me take a look. Well, I appreciate you guys. If you hit the like and subscribe and follow and all that good stuff. Looks like somebody hit something. We got a couple more viewers in here, so shout out to you guys. All right, here it is. Um, okay. Well, that doesn't pull up shit. Google patent. All right, interesting. What do we got going on here? All right, it says that Rothschild became the sole owner of important semiconductor. Hold on one second. Oh, well, you guys are going to hear some banging and clanging in the background. All right, let's see. So Rothschild is quoted as saying, "Give me control of your nation's money, and I care not who makes the laws. We shall have a world government whether or not we like it. The only question is whether world government will be achieved by conquest or consent." Definitely a creepy dude. Definitely creepy people. Uh, but this is what I'm having a hard time confirming. They keep saying the sole owner of an important semiconductor patent. What is this? What's the patent? I don't understand. So it's the KL03 microchip. You're not telling us anything new. Well, what's the patent information?
It's in the fridge.
The banging and the noise. Okay. Uh, so apparently it gets even more interesting. Freescale shareholders include the Carlyle Group, whose past advisors include ex-President George Bush, former British Prime Minister John Major. Some of the company's previous clients include construction firm owned by the family of Osama bin Laden, the Saudi bin Laden Group. They didn't respond to the article, we know that. I couldn't find a patent under that number, though. I couldn't find a patent under that patent number. Lou Valentino in the chat. Let's go. What's up, my guy? Been checking out some of your content lately. Good shit. Good shit. I think you had one video that like went crazy, dude. Had like 1 million plays or something. So congrats to you, bro. Congrats to you. We are diving into Malaysian Flight 370. I don't know if you ever went down this rabbit hole. Interesting stuff, though, bro. Interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. What I would like to be able to find, though, is the patent in question so I can read it, because there's no patent under this name that I can find. Lou, when are you going to be ready to come on stream, bro? You're welcome anytime. Anytime you have time. I have popped my cherry already on having people on stream. So we've conducted a few interviews so far with a couple independent artists. Checked out some of their music. They were pretty dope streams. They worked. We don't have the tech all worked out, but we figured it out both times, so we could figure it out again. So whenever you want to come by and chat it up, shoot the shit, debate something in particular, I think we agree on a lot of stuff. But you were a liberal for a long time, so maybe not. uh, I was never like political, but looking back at my life, I've always been conservative. You know, like I kept my kid in high school and kept the girl and uh all right, let's see. So all of them in this patent number 8650327B2, date of patent, patent images, US Patent Office. I just downloaded some shit. Okay. So United States Patent 8650327B2. Processor with programmable virtual ports. How do you make this bigger? All right, a processor with programmable virtual ports include a plurality of in-out I/O pins for transmitting and receiving data. The I/O pins are grouped into plurality. Why can't I say that fucking word? Plurality. This video will shock the world. Well, then why hasn't the world already seen it, my guy? Why are they relying on your spamming ass and random chats to fucking check it out, bro? Although I probably will end up clicking the link, so. But everybody else tuning in on the video, don't click this fucking guy's link, bro. I don't even know how to block this guy. How do you block this guy? I don't even know how to do that. Yeah, I don't even know how to do that. All right, well, there's the actual patent. Processor with programmable virtual ports. So I think that's pretty significant, no? Programmable virtual ports. Virtual meaning accessible online, and programmable meaning you can access them from a remote location and reprogram. So if they developed a chip that they're selling to our defense industry with reprogrammable chips, maybe not good. I don't know. Maybe it's good. Maybe it's not. But that is basically the theory. So that is the overall crux of the theory. And I don't know. I think I believe it more after looking into it than I did after the Instagram video or what have you. Um, so what do you guys think? What do you guys think? Did Freescale whack its own employees either to hide what their chip really does? Maybe that's a theory. Maybe that's a theory. Maybe the patent, it's not like the people at the patent office know what the fuck they're reading. You know what I mean? So maybe the patent says the chip does A, the chip actually does B. Enough members of the people on the flight knew what option B was, so they had to be whacked. They had to be whacked. And then, what's also interesting is what, a year later, a year and a half later, they're bought up for 12 billion. I don't know what their valuation was beforehand. I don't know what their valuation was beforehand, but 12 billion. I mean, that's a lot of reasons to whack a few Chinese on a plane. You know what I mean? That's a lot of reasons. That is a lot of reasons. Very interesting stuff, though. Very interesting stuff. I'm not able to verify anything I seen in the video to my full liking, unfortunately. But oh, I forgot to look up the names on the patent too to see if any of the names matched the airlines. But I'm sure they would fix that real quick. What is this video?
After weeks of searching for Malaysian Airlines Flight 370, another mystery about the flight has started to surface.
Is that right?
One of the richest, most powerful men in the world may have profited greatly when the flight went missing.
Really?
His name is Jacob Rothschild.
Tell us more.
Among the 239 passengers aboard the craft were 20 senior employees of U.S.-based technology company Freescale Semiconductor. Most of the missing individuals are engineers and designers, according to a press release from their management. They were working on a project to make factories in Asia more efficient. The KL-03 microcontroller was recently developed by the corporation for use in military radar systems. Freescale RF, a division of Freescale Semiconductor, develops radar avionics and missile guidance systems for the military. There are 17 billion computer chips produced by the company in use worldwide. 4 days after the flight disappeared, a patent was issued for new semiconductor technology. That license was awarded to 5 parties, Freescale Semiconductor and 4 Chinese employees of the company. Investigators believe all 4 of these people were on board the aircraft when it vanished. Mitch Hawes, vice president of the investor relations for Freescale, said, "These were people with a lot of experience and technical background, and they were very important people. It's definitely a loss for the company." Now that the passengers on MH370 have been declared dead, the entire patent can now be awarded to the company, currently owned by Jacob Rothschild. The multi-billionaire is a member of the Rothschild family, who own and manage many of the world's largest banks and other financial institutions. This new piece of evidence does provide a motive for the disappearance of flight MH370 and has many independent news outlets questioning the Rothschild's ties to the flight. While it does shed a bit of light on the disappearance, it only clouds the waters further as navies and satellites around the world still look for possible pieces of the missing plane.
Okay, well, there was a good synopsis of the whole issue right there. It raises a few questions, though. It raises a few questions. Did the Rothschilds actually profit from the patent? And if you look at the sale of the company for $12 billion a year later, I'm going to go with yes. I'm going to say a big fat yes on the profiting. Interesting stuff, folks. Definitely some interesting stuff. You guys, let me know what you think, what really happened to Malaysian Flight 370. Is it a conspiracy? Did the Rothschilds take down the plane like they took down the Titanic? I mean, like the Titanic crashed into an iceberg going really slow at night. Or was it a ship called the Olympian sailing full-fledged through the ocean at night as fast as it could possibly go, despite multiple people warning the ship to slow down? It didn't. It crashed. And guess who died? I don't know if you know who died, but guess who died? The 3 patriots who didn't want us to have a Federal Reserve. That's who died. That's who died. Now we have a Federal Reserve, folks. It's when we started losing America. Jesco thinks the plane was shot down. Who shot it down? Why did they shoot it down? Being shot down is definitely a good theory. Some people say it was Russians because supposedly Russian separatists shot down another Malaysian airliner. But I don't know. Maybe they didn't get maybe they didn't get everybody with the first plane. So they had to wait till the same person was on another plane. And it took them a while before they'd fly again. They were supposed to be on Flight 370 and they woke up late. So they're still alive. But they were traumatized because they were supposed to be on the flight that went missing. They therefore waited 4 months before they could get up the courage to actually fly. Then they did fly. And then they just shot that shit out of the sky. They're like, we're making sure this time. We are making sure this time. Interesting stuff, though. Interesting stuff. You guys let me know what you think of streams in this kind of format where we pick like one kind of topic and then just search the internet, dig into it, see what we can see, find what we could find. Let me know what you guys think about that kind of stuff.